Good evening and welcome. I'm Melissa Doyle. This is the latest from 7 News. You have seen them in your city tonight, how the protests played out around the country and what comes next. Live team coverage. America on edge. More violence expected. Our reporter is standing by. Inside Donald Trump's strategy, a former CIA official's shock claims, comparisons to Kim Jong-un. What really happened to Madeleine McCann? New developments? One of the investigators joins me. And exclusive access inside Australia's ghost airports. Why planes are flying in and out with no one on board. Powerful but peaceful. Thousands of protesters have gathered in capital cities right across the nation. Australia joining 17 other countries, along with the 50 US states, to proclaim Black Lives Matter, making this the largest civil rights movement in world history. As we go to air tonight, our team is standing by in key locations with the very latest. We begin in Melbourne with Christy Mayer. And Christy, there was a strong police presence there today.
Mel, there was a huge police presence right across Melbourne today with hundreds of officers out and about, but they were vastly outnumbered by the protesters. There were tens of thousands of protesters marching right through city streets with a very clear message that Black Lives Matter and they want an end to racism. Of course, social distancing went out the window. The state government had come out and urged protesters to please stay home. But this was impossible. Most did wear masks, but they came out and told us today that racism itself has become a pandemic and it was very important to them to rally in the streets today. So, of course, they did honour George Floyd, who died in the US. They also honoured more than 400 Indigenous Australians who've died in police custody since 1991. Their names were read out. So there was a little bit of animosity towards police at times, but on the whole, there was no violence, there was no arrests, and police say they were very happy with how people behaved today. One thing they will be doing tonight, though, is fining the organisers of the protest for breaching the social distancing regulations. Mel.
All right, Christy, in Melbourne tonight, thank you. Let's now go to Sydney. Robert Avadia is there, and Rob, protesters won a last-minute appeal making the march legal. Did that change the tone?
Good evening, Mel. It changed everything. It changed the legalities. It changed the likelihood of a confrontation. There really, in effect, was no need for a confrontation. You can see right behind me now there is a bit of a confrontation, but this is just what you see, I guess, in a thriving democracy. There are people yelling at police at the moment. The police are holding the line here at Central Station after a bit of physicality, but for the actual riot itself, with thousands there, police did not intervene as long as that riot did exactly as it said it would do. It stuck to its intended march. There was to be no problem. It was quite a dramatic last-minute decision too. From what I understand, police were about to move in on the protesters at the stage where it was considered banned. That was just before it was about to kick off at 3 p.m. That court decision was made, suggesting that Justice Desmond Fagan made an error in law in his initial judgment, allowing the protest to go ahead. So I can tell you that was certainly a very, very big relief, not only for protesters, but also for senior police who feared ugly scenes throughout the afternoon.
With a matter of minutes. All right, Rob Avadia, thank you very much. That update there from Sydney. Now let's go to Brisbane, where tens of thousands also turned out. Georgie Chumbley is there tonight. And Georgie, have the protests remained peaceful?
Mel, well, emotions certainly were running high, as you would expect, but there haven't been any arrests here in Brisbane, with 30,000 people taking to the streets. They gathered in King George Square to fight the inequality and the injustice that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders and people that that associate with the Black Lives Matter movement face every single day. Now, they marched through the streets. This process went for 6 hours. It's only just wrapping up here in Brisbane now, and it's been an emotional, also an empowering day, but many people taking the time here this evening just to reflect on what an incredible day it has been, but also acknowledge that there is still so much to go.
Georgie, thanks very much in Brisbane tonight. Now in Adelaide, thousands of people packed Victoria Square in a peaceful protest. The majority of demonstrators heeded calls to wear face masks after the South Australian Police Commissioner gave crowds a special exemption from COVID-19 restrictions. Well, let's now go to the US, a nation still on edge, almost 2 weeks since the death of George Floyd, which sparked protests and violence right around the world. US correspondent Paul Caddick is there for us tonight. And Paul, these demonstrations show no sign of stopping anytime soon.
Good evening, Mel. Correct. Tens of thousands of Americans have again taken to the streets of cities across this country today. Here in Los Angeles, there were at least a dozen rallies, and I've just counted there are at least 17 rallies planned for tomorrow. Protesters say it is going to continue, and one of the reasons why is that they're seeing that the death of George Floyd and the reaction to it could actually see real change in this country. They're already seeing that from some local officials. The city of Minneapolis banning the police chokehold. The mayor of Los Angeles saying that he'll divert millions of dollars in police funding to things like jobs, health and education programs. The mayor of DC announcing that part of 16th Street, which leads right to the White House, has been renamed Black Lives Matter Plaza, with some pretty big letters spelling that out. On the day that Donald Trump decided to invoke George Floyd's name as he touted better than expected unemployment figures.
Hopefully George is looking down right now and saying there's a great thing that's happening for our country. There's a great day for him. It's a great day for everybody. This is a great day for everybody. This is a great, great day in terms of equality.
And images of more police brutality in New York State have led to more controversy, Paul.
Yeah, that's right, Mel. These disturbing pictures of a 75-year-old protester being shoved to the ground. He was taken to hospital with a serious head injury. 2 police officers have been suspended pending an investigation. 57 police officers have resigned from the city's crowd control unit in protest of those suspensions. The governor of New York said he was sick to his stomach seeing what had happened, but the mayor of Buffalo was more defensive of his officers.
He was asked to leave numerous times last night. He was in that area after the curfew, and the police felt it was very important to clear that scene for the safety of protesters.
Here in Los Angeles, authorities are more satisfied that protests are remaining peaceful. There are no more curfews here. And the mayor said today that, all going well, National Guard troops, who've been a very visible and slightly surreal presence on these streets, could start going home within days. Mel.
All right, keep us informed. Paul Caddick, thanks very much. Now, CIA veterans are raising concerns over US President Donald Trump's response to the nationwide demonstrations. Angela Cox has been looking into the issue, and Angie spoke to a former intelligence official.
That's right, Mel. Gail Held is a former CIA analyst, and she spent years monitoring the fall of democracies and the rise of dictators around the world. She's one of many people who are concerned about Donald Trump's use of military force. I asked her if democracy in America is at risk.
You know, I hate to say this, but I think that it is. When a government begins to take a forceful approach as its first step towards dealing with grievances of its people, there's a lack of trust.
Let's talk about Donald Trump's Bible stunt. He cleared crowds with tear gas and rubber bullets for what was a photo opportunity. What did you think about that?
When I saw that, I'm thinking Kim Jong-un on top of Mount Paktu on that white horse. But it seemed like he was trying to make a statement that he is some divine figure who is going to reunite us and, you know, solve this problem. And when in reality, he's not. And I think he's scared.
Do you think he sees himself as a supreme leader?
He has always admired the uses of strength. He praised Deng Xiaoping for the Tiananmen Square crackdown, saying that that was a show of strength, and that's what, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but that's what leaders do. He's praised Egypt's leader al-Sisi as his favorite dictator. He's talked about how President Xi Jinping in China now has it easy because he basically can rule by mandate. I think he is envious of that kind of authority, and if he can take that, that's what he wants. And we've seen him taking that authority throughout the last 3.5 years, and it's really a scary thing when his own party won't stand up and prevent him from doing it.
How is it that he seems to have this autonomous power? Where are the checks and balances in your system that he can essentially dictate how the country is run.
Trump has managed to bully, coerce, scare members of his party, people who should be those checks and balances, into going along with everything he wants to do. I mean, Trump wouldn't allow the CIA director or the director of national intelligence to hold a worldwide threat briefing this year. Why? Because he's afraid that there's going to be some information conveyed to the American public that is not in his best interest, his personal best interest. You know, that's disturbing. Our checks and balances are not working, which raises the question of whether or not our democracy is failing. And unless change happens soon, I think that it is.
Thank you so much for joining us on The Latest. Gail Held.
Thank you.
Now, Mel, America is the most divided it's ever been in history, but there is a reason they call him Teflon Don. And despite the concerns a lot of people have about the way he's handled these race riots, there's every chance it could actually deliver him a win in November.
Wow. Her words were really strong. She was really powerful.
She was.
Yeah, thanks, Ange, very much. Now, last month would have been Madeleine McCann's 17th birthday, 13 long years after she disappeared during a family holiday in Portugal. But this week, hope of finding Maddie alive is fading, replaced by hope that her killer may have finally been caught. It's the face of a serial sexual predator, and police now believe the face of the man who abducted and killed Madeleine McCann.
This person, this man, is a suspect in our investigation.
The 43-year-old German national, Christian Bruckner, is a convicted rapist, paedophile and petty thief. 13 years ago, he was living in Praia da Luz when Madeleine disappeared from the Portuguese holiday town, never to be seen again.
Words cannot describe the anguish and despair that we are feeling as the parents of our beautiful daughter, Madeleine.
It was a crime that has shattered a family, bewildered police and transfixed the world. Now, perhaps, some answers.
You have a person that fits a profile. Previous history of sex offences against girls, burglary. And you see that his phone was actually within proximity of the crime scene a short time before the crime was committed.
They're asking people to
Even long-time McCann family spokesman Clarence Mitchell is hopeful that after so many years of false leads, this might be the real thing.
I can't remember in 13 years of helping the family any one individual like this being targeted for specific information at such a granular level, if you like, with his movements, his vehicles, his phone calls even.
Back in 2007, Christian Bruckner lived in this house, selling drugs and stealing from holiday apartments. It's not far from the Ocean Club Resort where Jerry and Kate McCann were staying on that fateful evening. Some 600 suspects were identified and cleared, among them Christian Bruckner. Now police are trying to make up for lost time, focusing on the distinctive van he drove.
We know that vehicle was in the area, certainly the days leading up to it and the week afterwards.
Bruckner also owned this Jaguar and had it re-registered in someone else's name the day after Madeleine went missing.
We want to know, does anybody remember that vehicle?
Christian Bruckner is now in jail in Germany, convicted of raping a 72-year-old widow in her home 18 months before Madeleine disappeared. He is also a suspect in the disappearance of 5-year-old Inge Garrick, who vanished during a family outing in Germany. And it's now alleged he fantasised in online chats that he wanted to capture something small and use it for days. For Madeleine's parents, these new developments bring mixed emotions.
They've made it quite clear that they have never given up hope on finding Madeleine alive, even at this stage, and they just want to establish the truth. They want to know what happened and whoever was responsible to face justice.
Well, joining us now, Mark Williams-Thomas, a former British detective who has investigated the McCann case and author of the newly released book, Hunting Killers. Mark, thank you for joining us. This is quite astonishing. How significant are these new developments?
Yes, good morning from the UK. These are major developments. We have the German authorities now very clearly coming out saying that they are treating the disappearance of Madeleine McCann as a murder, and they have a suspect. It's a slightly different tone that they are using in relation to Madeleine's disappearance than the British authorities. The British police here are saying they're still treating it as a missing person inquiry, not as a murder investigation. But we now know the name of the key suspect in relation to the disappearance of Madeleine McCann.
And why has it taken police so long, do you think, to identify this man? And there seems to be so much information about him.
Well, the timeline is really interesting because his name first comes into the inquiry in Portugal in 2008. He's looked at by the now discredited Gonzalo Amaral. He discounts him. And then fast forward to 2017, when on the 10-year anniversary, he is sat in a bar with a friend, and during the course of that broadcast, he says to his friend two very significant pieces of information. Firstly, that he is involved in the rape of a 72-year-old lady in Portugal, and he has evidence on his phone in relation to that. He then also talks in relation to the disappearance of Madeleine McCann and says he is directly involved in her disappearance. The police investigate that, and they find out that he does have evidence on his phone, and he is subsequently prosecuted and convicted in relation to the rape of the 72-year-old woman. And why that's significant is that that gave the credibility that if he's told the truth in relation to that, is he also telling the truth in relation to Madeleine McCann?
Does this feel different to you? We've seen a number of suspects named over the years, but I feel this is the first time we've had so much information about one person. We've seen photos of his home. We just seem to have learnt a lot.
This is really significant because we have the authorities, not just in relation to one country, but three countries, Portugal, Germany and the British, who are all saying that this person is a suspect in relation to the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. And we, of course, now know so much more background about this individual. The German authorities were not allowed to put his name out because of privacy laws, but they acted very cleverly by putting enough information out that the media were able to join the dots, identify who this person is, and now we're slowly finding out, almost on an hourly basis, further information about this individual.
Given how much you have covered this case, can I ask you your gut instinct? What do you think happened to Madeleine? And just in that, her parents were regarded as suspects at one point by a lot of people. Did you ever think that was a possibility?
So let me take them firstly, do I think that the parents are involved? No, I ruled the parents out very quickly. We then move into who else could this possibly be? Stranger abductions are very rare. The abduction of young children is very rare, but they do occur. And I looked at the evidence and I did a full review in 2009, having looked at all the police files which were released. And my conclusion was that Madeleine was abducted most probably from outside the apartment when she wandered out looking for her parents that night. And we know she'd woken up on the previous night looking for her parents that night. And at that opportunity, a paedophile went past and abducted her.
Gosh, you just hope we get some answers soon, more for the family than anybody. It's a significant breakthrough. Mark, thanks very much for giving us some details into it all.
Thank you very much.
Still to come, exclusive access, eerie scenes. We take you inside one of Australia's ghost airports. Why planes are still flying in and out with no passengers on board. That is next on the latest from 7 News. On a long weekend, Australia's airports are usually bustling. Today, they are ghost towns, deserted, as are the aircraft sitting on the runway. But there are exceptions. American Airlines have been dominating the skies, flying between LA and Sydney. And while they have no passengers on board, they are carrying precious cargo. Travel expert James Wilkinson explains.
I wish that I could fly into the sky so very high.
Right now, we're on an American Airlines Boeing 777 here at Sydney Airport that's about to depart for Los Angeles. Ordinarily, these flights would be full of passengers heading to California. This one's not, it's only cargo.
A lot of it has been the protective equipment for medical people at the front line of the COVID-19, some ventilator parts to help with, and also large amounts of fresh produce, and the famous Australian beef and seafood. So it's quite a variety that we carry.
Let's go and see the stars, the Milky Way, or even Mars.
We started with the first flight last month. I was fortunate enough to fly the first round trip, and both flights were completely full. We were at our max takeoff weight. We quickly started 2 flights a week, and now we're up to 3 flights a week coming down here to Sydney from Los Angeles.
So what's it like flying these aircraft with literally no one on the plane apart from just your crew?
You know, we operate in the cockpit pretty much the same way, regardless of who's on, whether there's people on board or not. The only other thing is it's just very quiet in the back. We're kind of on our own a little bit, so it is a little interesting to come back and see all this in the middle of the flight. Expecting 300 people and there's nobody here, so it's a little different.
So we're requiring our team members in airports and on board aircraft to wear masks. As you say, our customers are required to wear face coverings during boarding and on board. We've also implemented procedures around social distancing in our airport locations and on board our aircraft. We've made some changes to our onboard food and beverage offering as well. So all these changes we think allow our team members to really do a great job in providing a safe service to our customers, but providing a great customer experience whilst on board.
Well, the good news for travellers is that while it's cargo flights only at the moment, when demand picks up and this terminal fills up, American Airlines will be taking Aussies to California once more.
We know, talking to our customers, they're already planning the next trip, whether it's for business or pleasure. Our teams are excited, our crews are ready to welcome people back on board, so we can't wait for October to come around.
Well, James Wilkinson joins me now. James, nice to see you. Just explain what it was like in there in a completely empty airport.
Good to see you too, Mel. Yeah, very strange experience going through the airport, actually. When you go through departures, we had to go through a special entrance. There was no one in departures. All of the duty-free stores and everything are all closed up. So it's like a maze walking through down there, but very eerie walking through a terminal like that, when normally it's at this time of year, Aussies are jetting off to go to Europe or America and get away from the Aussie winter and go and get some sun.
From late October, American Airlines are planning on restarting their LA to Sydney flights. So
that's right.
Does this mean passengers can be on board? I mean, are there seats available? Can Australian travellers go? What's happening?
So airlines starting to pre-plan for later in the year when hopefully travel does resume. So, yeah, they will be commercial flights. Obviously, we need a few things to happen. We need the government to get rid of the travel warning at the moment for leaving the country. We still need a valid reason to get out of Australia, and it can't just be to have a stress-free holiday. So it's one of those things where we do need the government to release that. And then there are a lot of countries, Mel, lining up to have Aussies go to their shores at the moment. We've got instances now where Fiji, yes, they said they've got no more COVID cases. New Zealand are free of it, obviously, as well at the moment too. So Cook Islands never had it. So, I mean, to be honest with you, there should be a period soon where we actually can start travelling to those nations if they want to have us.
You know what? I kind of have this thing, travel Australia first, I reckon. Everyone needs us. Our community needs us. Yeah, wonderful. Well, James, I'm sure we'll chat again very soon when you know some dates. So we will stay in touch. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thanks, Mel.
Well, the latest from 7 News will be back in just a moment. Welcome back. Well, we're taking a look at the city of Saragossa in northeast Spain. Isn't that beautiful? Sunny and 20 degrees there right now. Now let's have a look at temperatures around Australia. Brisbane 23 and partly cloudy. A little bit of early frost in Canberra and a top of 12. Melbourne 13 and possible showers. And in other parts of the country 28 in Cloncurry. Bit of frost in Mudgee and 15. And Berry Springs just near Darwin 34 degrees and a little bit of cloud. Now, we all know the power of an animal to spread some love, and we've seen some pretty cute ones offering support during the coronavirus pandemic. So tonight, meet Cesar, the no-drama llama, here visiting a nursing home in Oregon in the US. He's human, that's Larry McCool, also takes him to visit schools and spend time with children. But today oh, pardon me. There he is, sorry. Oh, losing my voice. Anyway, he was joining the crowds in Oregon. And I've lost my voice. Totally gone. I'm going to say good night. Thank you for your company. That's the latest. Good night.